Oh, more than misgiving. I was
Were
terrified.
you?
I was more frightened of this than any role I've ever undertaken. Not because of the...
For decades, Dame Helen has been the definition of grace, under pressure, never reckless with her words, never chasing headlines. But in recent interviews, the Oscar-winning icon finally spoke candidly about colleagues who, in her view, turned collaboration into chaos. Tonight, we break down her revelations, supported by first-hand quotes, press records, and industry testimony, to uncover who crossed the line from talented to toxic. Before we begin, here's how this countdown works. We'll rely first on Helen Mirren's own statements, interviews, award speeches, and public panels from 2010 onward. Second, we'll include on-record witnesses, directors, producers, or co-stars who've gone public. Third, where first-hand sources are sparse, we'll cite credible reports from major outlets: The Guardian, Variety, The Hollywood Reporter, BBC News, and others. And only if no direct documentation exists will we reference industry lore, labeled as such. Everything here is traceable, and every claim is identified as proven, reported, or alleged. Now let's count down from our 9 to 101. Bruce Willis. Helen Mirren admired Bruce Willis for years. They shared top billing in Red 2010 and its sequel Red 2 2013, where audiences loved their banter. But behind the chemistry, Mirren later hinted that things weren't effortless. In The Telegraph 2015, she described certain collaborations where the quiet between takes became heavier than words. Though she never named Willis outright, she'd just been asked about the Red films. Crew members told Entertainment Weekly that Willis often checked out emotionally. Director Dean Parisot recalled moments when the energy dropped, conversation stopped, and nobody knew why. Others defended him, citing exhaustion from overlapping shoots. Mirren's takeaway was professional, not cruel. "You can't freeze out your colleagues," she said. "Film is trust. When that vanishes, performance collapses." Her remarks echoed what cinematographer Ernest Day once called the temperature factor. The idea that one actor's mood sets the thermostat for everyone else. It's a subtle form of control. She suggested a kind of passive aggression that drains creative risk. Evil, in Mirren's lexicon, isn't always violent. Sometimes it's the deliberate withholding of warmth to keep others small. And as she'd later warned students at RADA, a leader who stops listening becomes a dictator, even on a film set. Number 8, Robert De Niro. Few actors earn Mirren's respect like Robert De Niro, but even admiration has limits. During a BAFTA Masterclass 2018, she described a rehearsal early in her career with an unnamed method legend, who never broke character, not even at lunch. Asked afterward if she meant De Niro, she smiled but didn't deny it. "He was brilliant," she said, "but terrifying. You start doubting your own reality." That comment landed the same week The Guardian ran a feature on method acting's collateral damage, citing co-stars who felt emotionally battered by performers staying in role. One former crew member from the Mission 1986 recalled De Niro refusing eye contact off camera, calling it psychological warfare disguised as craft. Mirren's critique wasn't moral panic, it was professional analysis. "If immersion requires cruelty," she said, "then it's not immersion, it's domination." Her tone was weary, not vengeful, a veteran who's seen rehearsal rooms where fear replaced respect. Midway through the lecture, she paused. "Ask yourself, are you creating truth, or are you just controlling the room?" That question rippled across acting schools worldwide, reprinted in Stage Magazine's 2019 ethics issue. For Mirren, the damage wasn't only emotional. When intimidation enters the process, spontaneity dies. Crews grow cautious, young performers shut down. What should be collaboration becomes survival. And that, she argued, is the quiet rot that makes otherwise great men evil without realizing it. Russell Crowe. While Helen never worked directly with Russell Crowe, she's been asked about his notorious temper more than once. In CBS This Morning 2014, discussing difficult male leads, she remarked, "Some actors mistake volume for passion. They think shouting equals commitment. It's not art, it's fear." Crowe's public incidents are well documented. The 2005 New York phone-throwing arrest, covered by BBC News, and The Guardian's 2010 report of on-set blow-ups during Robin Hood, Industry lore links Mirren's quote to a 2000 encounter on Proof of Life's lot, where visiting crew claimed Crow erupted over lighting delays. Variety that year noted similar clashes, though the actor later apologized publicly. Mirren never names him, yet her consistent theme, male volatility excused as genius, aligns too neatly to ignore. She's blunt about collateral harm. The lowest paid person on a set usually absorbs the loudest person's anger. Guardian interview 2018. Her broader point is structural. When studios reward tantrums with box office budgets, they teach that cruelty is a management style. And while Crow's later reputation softened, Mirren's remarks endure as industry shorthand for the difference between intensity and intimidation. Johnny Depp. In a 2022 Sunday Times profile, Helen Mirren was asked about public sympathy for Johnny Depp amid his defamation trial. Her answer was surgical. "We must stop mistaking charisma for goodness. Some men perform decency better than they live it." It was classic Mirren critique the archetype, not the man. Still, fans drew the connection instantly. Rolling Stone 2018 had already documented Depp's chronic lateness and alleged alcohol issues on Pirates of the Caribbean 5, citing Disney accountants estimating over $14 million in wasted production time. Former crew called it a circus powered by tolerance. Mirren's focus, however, was systemic celebrity blindness. "We forgive talent everything until the receipts arrive," she told BBC Radio 4 later that year. "And then we ask how it happened." Why do audiences defend self-destruction until it costs them entertainment value? Her comments sparked debate on actor worship itself. In fan forums, people quoted her line as a modern proverb. Mirren reframed the conversation from gossip to ethics, arguing that industries, not tabloids, decide which behaviors survive. She concluded, "When the line between brilliance and cruelty blurs, we lose the map of humanity that art is meant to draw." Number 5, Dustin Hoffman. Helen Mirren grew up in the same generation that revered Dustin Hoffman. But by 2017, when Variety reported multiple allegations of inappropriate conduct spanning decades, she admitted a painful reevaluation. In The Guardian 2010, she'd already confessed that young actresses of her era were trained to tolerate what we should have challenged. After The Hollywood Reporter published Anna Graham Hunter's detailed account of harassment during Death of a Salesman rehearsals, Mirren told BAFTA audiences, "Brilliance is no defense. Genius excuses nothing." Those words hit like thunder. Time magazine revisited an old 1980 profile, quoting Hoffman joking about provoking women for realism. Mirren's rebuke reframed it as predation disguised as process. Her insight went beyond gender politics. "Abuse survives through complicity," she said. "Every time we called it eccentricity, we handed it another decade." This entry reveals the moral through line of her list. Evil thrives on admiration. By 2018, several drama schools incorporated her quotes into consent-based training curricula. Mirren's stance acknowledged collective failure actors, teachers, producers, finally replacing silence with language. Number 4, Jared Leto. When Suicide Squad premiered in 2016, stories of Jared Leto's method gifts, rats, bullets, used props dominated press tours. Many laughed, others felt violated. In a 2017 BBC Radio 4 interview, Mirren spoke pointedly, "If your research harms colleagues, it's not preparation, it's narcissism." She refused to name Leto, yet the reference was unmistakable. Producer Charles Roven later defended the antics as misunderstood humor, but the rap confirmed several cast members' discomfort. Mirren's larger critique targeted a generation raised on chaos as authenticity. "We've confused discomfort with depth," she said. "You don't need to traumatize people to play trauma." How did cruelty become a performance metric? Following backlash, Warner Brothers quietly introduced stricter on-set conduct policies in 2017, as reported by Deadline. Mirren later told students at London Film School, "The future belongs to actors who can be fearless without being feral." That single line became a meme of artistic boundaries, proof that moral authority can sound as thrilling as rebellion. 33. Kevin Spacey. By 2018, few names symbolize Hollywood's reckoning more than Kevin Spacey. In a Variety studio interview that year, Helen Mirren didn't hedge. Predators don't look like monsters. They look like colleagues you've trusted for years. When pressed if she meant Spacey, she replied, "That's one of them." Her comment arrived amid criminal charges in both the UK and US. Although several counts were later dismissed, the testimonies painted a consistent portrait of intimidation cloaked in mentorship. "The whispers were there," Mirren told The Guardian later that year. "We just didn't listen loudly enough." The financial impact was immediate. House of Cards rewrote its entire final season, costing Netflix an estimated $39 million. Hollywood Reporter, 2018. Crews were laid off. Reputations imploded. Mirren's tone wasn't vindictive but reflective. When silence protects charm, that's when evil wins. She argued that systemic tolerance, not individual pathology, kept abusers powerful. What if the industry's politeness was the real villain all along? The aftermath proved her point. The Academy and BAFTA revised membership codes within months, acknowledging that professional conduct had to include morality, not just craft. Mirren's inclusion of Spacey in her moral index cemented the shift from rumor to record, from secrecy to scrutiny. Number 2, Gary Oldman. When Gary Oldman won his Oscar in 2018 for Darkest Hour, headlines resurfaced allegations from his ex-wife, detailed in the Daily Mail. Oldman denied wrongdoing and was never charged, but the debate over temperament versus talent reignited. In a 2019 independent interview, Helen Mirren addressed unnamed peers who carry darkness like perfume. It follows them into every room. She clarified later, "Some of the best actors I know are also the loneliest, but loneliness is no excuse for cruelty." Colleagues have long described Oldman as exacting. A dialect coach told Vulture 2019 he could humiliate anyone slower than him intellectually. Cinematographer Philippe Rousselot called him brilliant and brutal in equal measure. Mirren used such examples in her BFI seminar 2021 to discuss ethical artistry. The task is to transform rage into art, not export it to others. Can suffering justify the spread of suffering? Her verdict, no, became required reading in British film programs. Within a year, Equity UK expanded its mental health resources for sets with high-intensity performers. Mirren's analysis reframed Oldman not as villain, but as warning. Even moral ambiguity has victims. Number 1, Harvey Weinstein. Helen Mirren's condemnation of Harvey Weinstein remains one of the sharpest on record. Speaking to Variety 2017, days after the New York Times expose, she said, "What he did was evil, not complicated evil. The word fits." On BBC Newsnight 2018, she expanded, "We all enabled it. Every time someone said, 'That's just Harvey,' we added another brick to the wall that trapped those women." Her language echoed the public court record, People versus Weinstein, 2020, which resulted in convictions for criminal sexual acts and third-degree rape. Over 80 testimonies published by The New Yorker and NY Times chronicled the system Mirren described. At the 2019 Women in Film Awards, she told a silent ballroom, "Evil isn't a mystery, it's administration. It's the meetings, the NDAs, the assistants who were told to smile." That speech directly influenced BAFTA's 2020 creation of an anonymous misconduct hotline. Inside the Academy, Mirren advocated for mandatory ethics briefings, telling Hollywood Reporter, "Art without accountability breeds monsters." Weinstein wasn't exceptional, she warned. He was efficient. Her framing changed coverage worldwide away from scandal toward structure. Even after Weinstein's 2023 LA appeal hearings, Mirren reiterated on BBC Woman's Hour, "We can't rewrite what happened, but we can edit the culture that allowed it." By calling him evil publicly, Mirren redefined the term for modern Hollywood, not as theology, but as behavior repeated through hierarchy. Evil, she insists, is preventable through transparency. Across 9 names, a pattern forms. For Helen Mirren, evil isn't supernatural, it's procedural. It's the silence after misconduct, the charm that hides exploitation, the professionalism that becomes cruelty. Her evidence isn't rumor. It's receipts, interviews, court records, production testimonies. Through them, we glimpse a moral philosophy disguised as gossip but rooted in accountability. So which entry surprised you most? Tell us below. And for the next investigation, should we examine directors who destroyed their own movies or celebrities Hollywood quietly blacklisted for life?